typical neighborhood streetlight is 1 to 5 foot candles, and the district has committed to not having more than a 2 foot candle light spillover on adjacent properties. And that was a lot of back and forth for lighting consultant. What can we do? How can we move things around? And CEQA also, with regards to lights, to spillover light, CEQA doesn't identify like a threshold. They just talk about, will there be a significant light impact? And to sort of facilitate this conversation, we identified a threshold of 2 foot candles, which is, is within the range of a typical, so actually on the lower end of the range of a typical neighborhood street light. So that sort of just gives you a sense of like what that looks like.
And then the last, I think, part of that question was about noticing. And yes, we did definitely, the district sent notices to all of the adjacent neighbors. And they also posted a notice on the site in five different locations all the way around that said that there was a SISMD available and where to go see it. So yes, they were mailed a notice, and then there was also notices physically available.
I just want to clarify, mine was not about the notice, it was about the fact that this additional big change in the time hadn't been noticed.
Or the fact that the city sends a letter, that's fine. Okay, please.
If I could just respond to that comment. In the project description in the ISMND, I believe it's on page 29, there is a table that lists the proposed uses of the sports facilities, the sports field facility. And in that table, it indicates community adult sports would be using or could be using the fields 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, with lighting until 10 p.m. So that is in the project description in the ISMND. It isn't something that we made up when we submitted this comment letter. And that information has been available to the public since this ISMND was published on June 11th.
So this was properly noticed given the time 10 o'clock?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, no, my reading of the changes, I understood that we were saying the school, the mitigation was not including city use in addition to school use.
Right.
So we were already saying that the school was going to be using 8 to 10. And then in the materials, it said that the community would use it to 10, but it wasn't included in the mitigation. And so it's a technical change in the mitigation, not in what was already noticed to the public. So that was my reading of that as well. I did want to touch on Mr. Henry's comments about the hazardous soil. So a couple of things. I think your point is very well taken about Emeryville has had some rather toxic past uses. I do want to point out that 15 years ago, the school district did do a full redo of the field, and at that time, significant hazardous issues were addressed. I also know that there may be still some on the site, and my understanding is that the hazardous, we've approved contracts for full hazardous removal analysis and for testing throughout construction. So if we find it, we will get rid of it or properly mitigate it or tune it and use all of the tools that are generally used to make sure this is a safe place for kids. None of us want this to be a place where Emeryville's past impacts Emeryville's future. So this is I can tell you this is a concern of the board, and I believe it's already being addressed even before this plan. but your point is very well taken, and I think the board can use as many reminders as possible, so that it's never forgotten. But,
And if I could just jump into with some additional hazards information. So the Baseline Environmental Consulting, which is actually headquartered in Emeryville, did the hazards assessment, and we determined early on that it would probably be a good idea to do a phase 1 environmental site assessment, which is sort of the initial step to sort of see what historic uses have occurred on the site, as well as look at any other reports that have been done for mitigation on the site. We didn't include that in the appendix of the ISM&D, but that is a document that was signed via ISM&D, so the district, you can view that. That's a district document that you can review. Given the findings of the ISM&D, it was recommended that DTSC recommended that the district go ahead with the next step and perform a PEA. And that is a more involved process where where the DTSC, which is the Department of Toxic Substance Control, which is involved in school projects across the state, making sure that hazards are mitigated, that the site is safe for students, is involved with the district in preparing a plan for mitigation. And then that PEA document will be available for public. There's a public review process with the PEA document as well. So if you are interested in that specific component, you should let Roy know so that you can receive notice when that document is available.
Is that through the planning commission?
That is through the district.
And then finally, I wanted to just go over, although I think it is a planning commission issue, I wanted to just review the pathway that we have on 53rd Street. I thought that we were building in a green path along 53rd Street, so perhaps you could talk a little bit about that. And also, I understand we're increasing our bicycle parking throughout the site to encourage additional bike use from the areas that have direct access.
Well, the simple answer to those is yes, to both of them. The documents that have been submitted to the Planning Commission for their review show what we're doing on 53rd Street. And the dimension that occurs across the sidewalk is the drop-off zone, which has an intermittent impervious material, and planting, and then it has a 6-foot sidewalk. And then beyond that, then is the green natural developed landscape between that and the field. But rather than talk about it, there are appropriate things to actually look at the sections across that and give some clarity of what happens in that section and how our approach to meeting the guidelines from the general plan. Regarding parking, we're at now at about 124 bike parking spaces on the site. And there are various zones, both for the secure and unsecured, temporary. And those will be in the planning commission documents.
And there were also comments about our being a pedestrian-friendly site, and I just, for the benefit of the community, I wanted to point out that our intention is to be able to open the site up so that before and after school hours, it's possible to transverse the site. I would encourage people to actually look at the plan of the site, to look at, where they would be going from one end of the community to the other, and what the actual pathways are. And my understanding is that we are trying to leave room so that in phase 2, we've cut the budget back and we want to put funds to make sure we have a good school, but that we do want to be able to, in the future, have room to be able to put a pathway in as the general plan shows.
Regarding the bike path,
Yeah.
we have no designs.
No designs,
established for the bike
but there's space that there's nothing precluding a bike path in the future. That's what I wanted to clarify. So we'll ask you more about that at the planning commission. I'm sure the planning commissioners will ask more about that, but I wanted to just since it was brought up here, I wanted that first. That's it for my questions for now. Just check to make sure we addressed what was brought up. Oh, there was a question about the turnaround for transportation.
Good evening, I'm Catherine Tellez with Fair and Peers, and I worked on the transportation impact analysis for the school site. We, in consultation with the architect team, came up with the turnaround plan to help facilitate people dropping off and picking up students so they wouldn't have to travel through the neighborhood on 53rd Street. So the intent of the turnaround is to get people to come off San Pablo, go down 53rd, and then turn around and enter the back of the queue to drop off students in an orderly fashion. We do recognize that during brief periods there will be some queuing on 53rd as parents do wait for space at the front of the line so they can either drop off or pick up their student.
Okay, well, and just to be clear, it's likely that the queuing will be mostly the elementary school students, since the entry to the elementary school is on the opposite side of the property from the high school. There's high school on one side and elementary on the other. So unless it's a high school student on his bicycle biking through the site, which is very welcome, it's likely that they would enter from opposite sides.
That's correct. We had assumed that most of the student drop-off pickup for the elementary school or K through 8 would happen on 53rd, and then for the high school students it would be on 47th Street.
And there was a comment earlier about the peak usage and wondering how we could have 600 peak usage when we have 900 people on the site. My understanding is that that has a lot to do with the timing of not everybody arrives and leaves at the same time. The reality is that the original idea of this is that we have a school where everybody, their families in the morning, and then it's empty from 3 o'clock on or 4 o'clock on, and then